Hello. Well, I figured since I did 2 Friday quick pop-in hellos in a row, and I was like, well, maybe we're starting a new trend. So I thought I'd pop by and say hi. I don't have a ton to share today, but I did just want to say that after our conversation, 2 weeks ago, I decided to order a bunch to make sure that I had them in stock. So guess what is here? So I have all 3 decks in stock. This is how they come. They come in just a plastic wrap so that you can see which deck you've got here. And then I drop them in an organza bag, which actually you can do all 3 decks in there. So if you get all 3 decks, you'll get an organza bag that they can stay in. I'm showing you this because I have little insert cards that I had printed, because basically for anybody who is ordering for like the next little while, I'm gonna randomly select, and I will say prophetically select, one of the cards to include with your order so that you can actually see one in person, get to have one, and hopefully it will be a blessing to you and you can tuck it out wherever you happen to want to have a reminder. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about this. So they're all here. So you can either get one, you can get all 3. On Etsy, for those of you who are big Etsy buyers, I did add it there with an option where you get a Crinkle silk as well. And the Crinkle silk is at a pretty deep discount. The reason that it has to have the silk and that I can't just do the cards on Etsy is because literally, and I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, I don't make pretty much anything on this. So like the Etsy fees would have meant that I would have been losing money selling them. So I put the silk in there to kind of help absorb a little bit. But anyway, so just so you know, that option is available. Because I know some people are diehard Etsy shoppers. I buy a lot of stuff on there too. So I did just want to give that option. Also, it occurred to me that there are people who may be Klarna people, because I'm also a Klarna person. So, and for those of you who don't know, some of the pricing options that are there, because again, I know times are tight for everybody. And so some of you may be familiar with the concept of the pay-in-4s, where basically you can get something as if you've put the whole thing on a credit card or whatever, but it will actually split the credit card payment into 4 equal parts that basically occur every 2 weeks. So you pay the day that you buy it and then every 2 weeks subsequently. So it happens over like a 6-week period, because it happens at the beginning and then, at each of the intervals. And so that is kind of a convenient way to break it up, especially if you're someone who has a paycheck coming in every week or every 2 weeks or something like that. So it's also just nice because it makes it, I say it makes it nice. It can be helpful. Let me put it that way. It can be helpful. It's a tool. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for some people, and it does make things possible that weren't necessarily possible otherwise. And so that is an option through Klarna on our Etsy store. And also, something new with the invoices is that if you make the request ahead of time, I can make it accessible for you to use Afterpay on the invoices. And again, the reason I'm saying this is because we know, the flags. I mean, the price of everything has gone up, and our stuff is an investment, and we know that, and so it just makes it more possible. And also on Etsy, if you hit a certain threshold, they'll actually do it over longer periods of time as well. So they do, I think the threshold is if it's over like 300 or something like that, then you may even be eligible for like a 6 month at 0%. Again, all of this is at 0%. I'm not saying go into debt. I'm just, it can make things easier. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of those options. So anyway, so all that to say, yay, the decks are here, ready to ship. I actually shipped out the first set this week. I have 4 more that are available right now. It's going to be first come, first serve. And again, you know, if we have 5 orders, not a big deal. I'll order some more, and it just means that you have to wait a couple of minutes for me to get them, because they actually are getting printed in China. So I wasn't sure where they were getting printed. I just knew that every time I order some, that the shipping was both expensive and took a little while to get here. And so part of the reason actually why I wanted to have them in stock and to sell them to you directly is because when I was sending people to the site and just having them drop ship from there, the shipping is so shocking. Even though I would tell people up front, like it essentially comes out to like $1 per card, you know, and so people would know that going in. But for some reason, seeing how much of that is the shipping coming from overseas was just like, no, we're also used to free shipping and, you know, with the Amazon 2-day shipping and stuff like that. So yeah, we're all just spoiled where shipping is concerned. So I just put it here. Now you can have your free shipping if you're in the States. All right. With that said, I'm going to do a quick card pull. And again, like I'm seeing that people have popped in and out, but, I'm not sure who is actually in here right now, but anyway, feel free to leave comments if you have prayer requests. I'm up for that possibility today. Let's see. Okay, this one is jumping out at me. I didn't realize my thumb kind of caught on it, and I was gonna mess with it some more, but this one is standing out at me. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is a fun one. So first of all, this is the Warrior Bride art piece. And so it is the Guard Your Thoughts card. I know you can't read it because it's backwards, but I always like to show you because it's here. So, okay, guard your thoughts. We all struggle with thoughts and behaviors that are no longer serving us, but some can cause even more harm because they're toxic and it's time to let them go. I just want to read that one more time because I paused really long and I want to make sure we're all hearing this because this is a good reminder for all of us. We all struggle with thoughts and behaviors that are no longer serving us, but some cause even more harm because they're toxic and it's time to let them go. Just as your physical body experiences pain or discomfort when it's holding waste or toxins, emotional toxins cause harm too. Take a moment to intentionally dump the toxins and refuse to pick them back up because it's time to move on and heal. That's just such a good reminder. I know this is something like we all struggle with sometimes, but my sister, there was a phrase that she had started using when my nephews were little. They're grown, wonderful men now. But when they were little, she used to say, "What story are you telling yourself? What story are you telling yourself?" And that's such a great question to ask. Like, what story are you telling yourself? And so, you know, sometimes when people do things to us that hurt our feelings or that cause offense, we're telling ourselves the story that they've done it intentionally, that they have something against us, you know, that they don't like us or whatever. We have a tendency to assume the worst, right? And so that's something, for those of you who are my lunchtime live people, that's something that I used to say all the time, right? Assume positive intent, assume positive intent. And so, wow, I just realized this is a timely word for me too, because I did this yesterday and I didn't even catch that I did it until right now. That is so funny. That is so funny. I'm actually going to go ahead and tell you because I'm going to tattle on myself. So one of my peeves is because a lot of like the marketplaces have shipping requirements of how long it can take for things to ship. So like if you order from me on Etsy and when the listing says you have X amount of time before, you know, I'm going to ship it. And I'm really intentional with making those very real, which is the reason why the art flags, I always have 2 to 4 weeks built in, because if I have to order it in, I want to make sure there's time. And also, frankly, every once in a while there's an error. And so I need to leave time to be able to order it twice. So the shipping window on it is way longer than, you know, than what is probably going to take, right? But I would always rather under promise, over deliver. And so that's the reason that I do that. So I'm very particular about these, and you guys know that. That's one of the reasons why in the reviews, you'll see that a lot where, wow, that shipped a lot faster than expected. Okay. Now I do have a lot of stuff where it's like ship in 1 to 3 days. Those are the things that are here. They're ready. And like you order and I, come running into wherever I have it stored and I get it packaged up and I ship it out. So, okay. So all this to say, like the shipping is a very big deal to me because I experienced this. And so sometimes some sellers, in an effort to work the system, will print out the label, but they don't actually ship it. And so the label will stay in like a created but not scanned state, sometimes for kind of a long period of time. And so this happened to me with a seller recently where I had purchased an item and I got the tracking immediately. And of course, you guys know how this is. We get all excited. It's like, my thing, it's coming. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and like it does, like it messes with your heart because you're super excited about it. And then it's in this like holding state. Now, what I had purchased was something small. And so sometimes they don't always get scanned the way that they should because I'm trying to think how much information to share. Never mind. It doesn't matter. Just sometimes they don't always get scanned, or like sometimes if the package isn't like perfectly flat, sometimes it's harder to scan it. And so, for whatever reason, sometimes it'll stay in that like label created but not scanned state until all of a sudden it says it's out for delivery, and you're like, oh, how did that happen? So in other words, initially I was not concerned that it was in that state. And so it's sitting in that state for days, right? And I'm like, shoot, it should be here. It's coming from California, but shouldn't it have arrived already? And so like, it's totally messing with me. And then I end up getting something else from the same seller. And the next day I get an email with tracking information on that. I'm like, oh, this is fabulous. And then I realize it's the same tracking number. And I'm like, okay, they totally just cracked open the other package and put it in there and now is shipping them together, and hopefully that it's actually shipping. And it did start moving right away and it did arrive 3 days later. But I have to tell you that as someone who is held to that system of like, it feels unjust to me to work the system. Like I get why people would want to do it because you want to make sure you're a star seller if you're on Etsy or whatever. Like I get there's reasons why you want to make sure that you're hitting your shipping windows, but to me it feels like cheating if you're not actually hitting your shipping windows. You know what I mean? Like if you're saying that you shipped it but you didn't ship it, that feels like cheating. So anyway, so all this to say, I was really mad. I mean, and I don't get mad, but it's funny. The things that tend to get me are the ones that I view as like injustices, and especially where there is, deception involved, because that feels deceptive to me. But think about this. Coming back to guard your thoughts. That's a pretty big leap for me to make the assumption that she was intentionally deceiving me about when it was shipped. So it could be that, she had it ready, thought she was going to get it out, and it just didn't manage to make it. I mean, again, it was Thursday, the label was printed out, and it was Monday that it finally hit the mail. So that's Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. So it's like 3 shipping days that it missed. So, again, like realistically, it wasn't like it was an overly long period of time. But again, it was my thoughts about it. My thoughts about it were that it felt very intentional. It felt deceptive to me. And it could have just been maybe, this is where it helps me with the guard your thoughts. And again, I don't know how you guys do it, but for me, I say, what is a plausible reason that they could be doing this thing that is not of ill intent, right? Because that helps me to assume good intent, is to think of like, what's a reason that they would be doing this, that would not be something that's bad, because it helps me to potentially view where their heart is coming from, right? And so anyway, so I had been telling myself really bad stories, and then I told my husband the story because he came home shortly after this had happened yesterday, and I was still really hot under the collar about it. And hey, Michelle, Michelle, love you too. Oh, yay. Thank you for popping in. And so anyway, so I tell my husband this story, and my husband has a tendency to always reflect the other person's perspective, which is really unsatisfying when I'm having a moment where I want someone to be like, yeah, you know. So I don't know why I told him the story when he got home, because I know this about him. We're coming up on our 22nd anniversary this coming year. So like, I know this after 2 decades. I know that he does this. For those of you who are Enneagram people, he's a 7 with an 8 wing, right? So he always likes to, you know, have that little bit of debate with me. So anyway, so I tell him the story, and he starts going, well, maybe she didn't know. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. So he's literally doing what I typically do, which is, you know, what are the reasons why, assuming good intent, positive intent, like what are the reasons why she could have done it this other way? So all of that to say, even I am guilty of this. We all have those moments where, you know, our fleshly human nature wants to go to the worst possible case scenario. And we have a choice. We have a choice. We are to take all thoughts captive. Like, we get that choice. What do I want to come into agreement with? Do I want to assume the worst about people, or do I want to assume the best? And honestly, like, if you're wrong, like if you assume the best and you're wrong and they really were the worst, I mean, that says more about them than you. I trust that Father protects us when we do that, you know, so I don't think there's going to be a downside from that. Now, I'm not saying like make yourself a glutton for punishment or, you know, something, and, you know, let somebody keep doing bad stuff to you all the time. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, you know, guard your thoughts, be mindful. Anyway. Hopefully that's a blessing to someone today, because apparently I'm talking to myself too. So thank you to all of you who popped in and out. I've been seeing the numbers go up and down. And so I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will include the link for the decks in the comments afterwards. But they really are fantastic. I must say, I really, and I know I talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to be talking about them for a while just because, like, they're fabulous. I just love them. I think they're fun, but they're great for, kind of like what happened here today. It is a good way for God to be able to just kind of tap, tap, tap and talk to you about something that you didn't even realize that you did, or like that you're not thinking about. It's not on your radar screen, right? So like, we have a tendency, even with God, to like be focused. Like, this is the thing I want to talk about. Like, you know, it could be right now, a lot of people are dealing with financial stressors, but with the prices of everything changing. So it's a lot of finances that we're all talking to God about. God, what's going on? Like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to do this? Da, 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 da. And God may have something completely different he wants to talk about, but we are so focused on the thing that has our attention. It happens. And so these are a fun way for God to be able to go, hey, look over here, just look over here. And so that's one of the things that I like. So there's 47 cards in each deck. Each of the 47 cards is a different Dyed4you Art piece. It is, oops, I'm holding that upside down. Sorry, is a different Dyed4you Art piece. Each of them has a different word on the back. That's part of the reason that between decks 3 and 4, I've had to take a pause, because after writing almost, you know, what is that, 141 of them, like I needed my brain to get a break so that I wasn't ending up repeating stuff. Because, you know, the thing is like, you know, God speaks through what he's talking to you about. And so if I do it all in too compressed a time frame, like he's talking to me about the same kind of thing. So letting a little space pass, and then I'm going to pick it back up. But I've got enough art to do like 6 decks. So just know that that's the goal, is for me to like keep working on them. But anyway, I just love them, and I think that they're a blessing, and I want you guys to be blessed by them too. So let me know if you have any questions. And again, if you're ordering something else, you're gonna get to experience one of these, because I will include one with your order along with the card that kind of talks about them a little bit. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to share today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And as always, happy worshiping. Many, many blessings to you guys. Bye-bye.